So for this week's task, I want you to have a go at using some web-based photo editing software called Photopea to develop some creative experiments from the lino prints you produced earlier in the year. To make this possible, I've photographed everyone's lino prints and I've uploaded the photos to a shared folder that you can access by following the link at the bottom of the assignment. Photopea is almost identical to Photoshop, and both are really powerful tools for developing ideas for a final piece, so the skills that you will learn from completing this task will come in useful in the future. As you know, wherever possible, it's important to make connections with the work of other artists. So for this task, I'm going to be considering the work of Cubist artist Pablo Picasso and the abstract Russian painter Vasily Kandinsky.
Okay, so the first thing you need to do is go onto the shared folder that I shared with you on the Google Classroom, find your images and download them either to your desktop if you're working on a laptop or a desktop machine, or onto your camera roll if you're working on an iPad. This piece of software works equally well on iPads and laptops, and the instructions are pretty much the same other than where you save things. So once you've done that, once you've downloaded your images, you need to find them and open them in Photopea. So you go to File and you go to Open, and then you find the images that you've downloaded. So I've got those four there, and I'm going to open them, and they will appear along the top of the menu, just below the menu bar there. Okay, then I'm going to go to File and create a new document that I'm going to produce my experiments on. So if you select here on print, you can click on any of these here, but the one I want you to click on is print. Click on A4 and create, and that creates us our blank canvas. Okay, so this is where we're going to produce our creative experiments. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to each of these images, these photographs that I've downloaded, and I'm going to cut out sections of these lino prints, and I'm going to paste them onto this blank canvas to create a new composition. Okay, so go back to this one. So the first thing I want you to do, just before you start moving things around and selecting things, just make sure that when you're on this move tool here, that this box is checked and this box is checked. It just makes life a little bit easier. Okay, so first things first. The first thing I'm going to do is I want to select the rectangle marquee tool, and to do that by, if you click and hold that down there, you've got a choice between the rectangle select or the ellipse select. I'm going to set the rectangle select. I'm going to select this shape here. If you're not happy with it, you can just deselect it, and you can reselect it again, and you can play around until you've selected an area that you're happy with. So that I'm happy with that. And I want to copy that, so go to Edit and Copy, and I go to New Project, and I go Edit and Paste. Okay, and that will paste that object onto the page. If I use the Move tool here, I can move that around the page. If I move my cursor just to the outside of it, I can rotate it. If I do that, if I rotate it, what I've then got to do is I've got to press Enter before it let me do anything else, to say that I'm happy with that change. If I want to enlarge it, I can do, but it's important to hold the Shift key down when I enlarge it. Although I don't do that, it will distort the proportions, which I don't like doing that. So I'm going to hold the Shift key down, make it the size I want it, press Enter. I'm happy with that. Okay, I'm going to go to another one now, select another area. Instead of using the rectangular marquee this time, I'm going to hold that down. I'm going to go to the ellipse marquee, click on that, and again, if I click and drag, I can create any elliptical shape I want. But if I hold the Shift key down, it will make sure that it's a proper circle, and that's what I want. So I'm going to select that area there, Edit and Copy. And I go back to my project, Edit and Paste, and like I said before, I can enlarge that. If I hold the Shift key down, I can enlarge it, place it where I want. Once I'm happy with that change, and once I'm happy with the enlargement, I hit Enter. Okay, and then it allows me to move on and do other things. If I want this circle to be behind the square, I just go over here to my layers, and I can play around. I can move the layers around like that. Okay, so now I've got the circle behind the square. Okay, so that's the elliptical marquee tool and the rectangular marquee tool. Another way I can select different areas is if I can use something called a polyagonal lasso. If I click that, and I can select more complicated shapes by plotting out the corners of the like that. And again, I can go to edit and copy. Obviously you've got the keyboard shortcuts there as well. If I don't want to go edit and copy every time, I can just say Command in C or Propeller in C would do the same thing. Now if you notice what's happened here, I've clicked again, and it's now you can get yourself into a bit of a muddle here, and you think, oh no, what am I going to do? I can't, it won't stop selecting stuff. All you have to do is just go up to select and deselect, and then that'll deselect everything. So I think that copied, so we'll just go back to here, edit and paste, and I'll paste that one there, and I can rotate that round into a position that I'm happy with. Now for me at the moment, in terms of colour and contrast, I don't think that shape stands out very well from the circle in the background. So what I can do now is if I go up to make sure I'm in the layer. If I want to change the colour of this particular piece, I go to Image, Adjustments, and then Hue Saturation. And then if I play around with the hue, that changes the completely changes the colour balance in that particular piece. So I can move that into anywhere I want. I'm not quite like that. I'm going to stick with that there. Okay, so that's 3 different ways of cutting out, copying and pasting a section of another image. You've got the elliptical marquee, the rectangular marquee, and the polygonal marquee tool. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the rectangular marquee this time, and I'm going to, thinking about Kandinsky's compositions and the use of thin lines in his work, I'm going to cut out a slim line like that there. Go to edit and copy to my new project, edit and paste, and that pastes that line there. But I want the line right at the foreground, so I move it to the foreground like that. I want to move it and edit it, so use the move tool. I want to rotate it, so there you go there, one. You can play around with how long I want it to be. And when I'm happy with it. Now I want another one of these, so I could hit paste and it will give me another one the same. Don't want it too wide. I'll put that there. Remember, when you're happy with what you've done, you got to hit enter. One more. Move that around a little bit. On my work, I said I don't want it to touch the edges of the page. I want it to come in a little bit from the pages. Hit enter. Yeah, and I just think it just needs a little something here, so I'm just going to go back to one of my. Just going to find something. I haven't used this one yet, so again I'll go back to the elliptical marquee tool. I'll hold down the shift key to make sure it cuts out a perfect circle. I'm going to select that area there, edit, copy, new project, edit, paste, and I thought that just, I'm going to leave that sat there like that, and I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so there's one composition finished. Once you have finished and you're happy with it, you go to File, and if you can save it as a PSD. This is a Photoshop document, which means you'll be able to open it in Photoshop. You will be able to edit all your layers still, you'll be able to move things around. Or if you're happy with it and you think that's it finished, just save it as a JPEG. So you go to Export as JPG, make sure the quality is at 100%, hit Save, and it will save it to your downloads, or it will save it to your camera roll if you're on an iPad. You may have to grant access permission to the app in order for it to do that. Okay, so that's that one done.
So have a go at developing some creative experiments using the tools and techniques I've shown you so far. I would suggest trying to come up with at least 2 different compositions. If you can, print them out and put them in your sketchbook and add some notes of explanation and evaluation. If you can't print them out at home, save them and print them out when you return to school. Next, I want you to have a go at developing at least one of these compositions further by following the instructions in the next section of this video.
So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to layer and I'm going to flatten the image. Okay, and what that does is it gets rid of all my levels and it just puts everything in one background. So I can no longer, if I click on here, I can't move things around the page anymore. It's just one image. Okay, so in my document I've just flattened the levels. I've just flattened all the levels, so I've just got one background image. I'm going to use the rectangular marquee tool and I'm going to select an area of my image like that. Now I've purposely selected this, so what I've got is I haven't allowed any of the image to touch the borders on the bottom or the left hand side of the marquee, but the image does break through the border on the top edge and the right hand side edge, and I'll show you why I've done that in a minute. So I make sure I've got the background selected. I go to edit and copy, and I go to edit and paste. Okay, and that's pasted the whole image. Now that's too big for my purposes at the moment, so I go to the move tool, hold down the shift key to constrain the proportions, and I'm going to make it, and I want to make the entire image just less than quarter of the size of the page, which is what I've got there. So I'm happy with that. Okay, enter. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to copy this and I want to paste it again. So I select all of it, I go to edit and copy, and then I edit and paste. And that gives me another version, so I can tile it and I can repeat the pattern. But if I just put that there like that, they don't go together very well. So what I'm going to do with this layer now, with layer 2, is I'm going to go to edit and transform, and I'm going to flip it horizontally, and that joins nicely now with layer 1. It becomes a mirror image of layer 1. The piece is now symmetrical. Okay, I can do another one, edit and paste. I put that at the top here, but like before it doesn't join very nicely, so I go edit, transform, flip vertically, and then the last one, paste one more. I did that with the keyboard shortcut this time, propeller or command and V, and again this time for this top right hand one I want to transform it by flipping it horizontally and flipping it vertically. I'll move that to there, and that gives me my final image, which is a section of the original image which has been duplicated, and we've got 2 lines of symmetry there. Okay, and again, once I'm happy with that, file, export as a JPEG, and that will save to my downloads. Now ideally, if you've got a printer at home, you can print this out at home, you can put this into your sketchbook and you can explain what you've done. If you haven't got a printer at home, just save the images until you come back into school, or upload them to Google Classroom. I'll print them off for you and they'll be ready for when you come back. Okay.